Hello, and today we're playing the newest update for NeveN. So this update will be for Maelbjorn. A flash of light pierces the shadows, cutting through the distorted shapes that were about to devour us. Between our attacker and us now stands Vakad in his monstrous form, his claws shining with a blinding glow as he unleashes his powers against the darkness. For a moment, his ferocious gaze turned towards us, and I feel as if he is about to attack Maelbjorn, but a distorted bird attacking him immediately keeps him busy. Tanakh takes advantage of this brief respite to cauterize his wound, screaming in pain while the prince blinks as he watches the fight unfolding right in front of us. He's using his original brand to counter Lazarus. What do we do? Maelbjorn's gaze falls on me, and I can see the stress in his eyes for a moment just before he regains his composure. There's no other way out, so let's pray that those two keep each other busy. Tanakh, do you think you can move? Do I have a choice? The darkness gradually retreats before the onslaught of Kerathan's beast, and to our great relief, it pursues the bearer of the brand of Lastra out of the prison. We have to get out of here immediately. The lizard can barely nod as the bear crouches down to pass under his good arm and pull him to his paws. You'll have to protect us, Eric. After drawing my rapier, I slowly advance down the corridor, barely lit by a faint light coming from the entrance. The prince and the ambassador follow closely behind, and I can see that Tanakh is summoning all his strength to keep from fainting. A brand of Lastra attacking the heart of the castle in broad daylight. Either his plan is robust and he is powerful enough to make it out alive on his own, or he has company, so stay on your guard. Once the corridors, I see a gaping hole in the window overlooking the outer courtyard, then the south steel clashing reaches my ears. Chaos is all around us. Where are we supposed to go, Maelbjorn? Whoever attacked us is clearly not alone. They probably waited for my father to leave with the guard before striking, so let's avoid the throne room. Maelbjorn blinks as he looks out at the courtyard, his gaze lost, and I realize that a dozen scenarios are probably running through his head before he regains his senses. We need to find Gilliant and Simi. They probably have a plan in case this kind of attack happened. At least Gilliant will be easy to find. But don't you think Lust is in danger? I trust the ones guarding his room. I have no choice. The prince sighs, occasionally glancing anxiously at Tanakh, who himself seems to be struggling to remain conscious in spite of the pain. Stop worrying about me, will you? We won't get out of here alive if you're not focused. You're right. Let's go, Eric. Once again, I take the lead and head for the bedrooms, and as a feeling of fear begins to settle in me. What if our enemies got there before us? As I try to push this thought from my mind, screams and cries reach my ears as burning Africans flee through the corridors. Soldiers are close behind them, one of whom is the guard who just yesterday was standing watch at what I believe to be the door to the Macedian delegation. Puts Maelbjorn ever towards the NeveN and Oregon. Surrender your weapons, and no harm will come to you. My blood runs cold as I realize what I have to do. Maelbjorn is counting on me. We won't surrender. Without a word, I blocked the warrior's helmet with my powers before charging in his direction. He recoils to be immediately stopped when he realizes his head is trapped. Then, as I approach, he panics and sends flames in my direction. The fire is immediately deflected toward the ceiling as my rapier pierces the throat of the ill-fated warrior whose body is held suspended by his helmet. Then I release my powers and watch him collapse to the ground as a shiver runs through me. Oh shit, that was close. Don't try that kind of thing without warning me first. Sorry, I didn't think he'd try to burn me alive. I barely control my powers. Consider yourself lucky that... The lizard cringes in pain as Maelbjorn glares at me reproachfully. We have to do this without him, Eric. He's really not in any shape to fight. Can I even fight alone? I'm certainly not Tanakh at his best. But I don't really have a choice. Rapiers drawn, I continue through the corridors until I reach the bedrooms. And that's when I realize the extent of the carnage. Dozens of corpses litter the floor, while further on, in front of Gillant's room, Simi and his son fight side by side against the enemy. Fire, ice, and steel fly in all directions as their opponents, three birds bearing the coat of arms of Macad, fight with remarkable precision and speed. Without wasting any time, I rush into the fray. I can't leave them on their own. But halfway there, a fourth opponent, a vulture, lunges at Odu, who shoots a razor-sharp water jet in his direction. And to everyone's surprise, the water falls limply to the ground as it approaches the vulture, who plunges his blade into the finn's belly, inflicting a deep gash that spills his entrails onto the ground. Then the heart-rending cry of a grieving mother drowns out the noise of the fighting. Odu, no! Simi throws herself at the vulture to stab him, but he strikes the weapon with his shield, sending it flying away, before hitting the spy mistress in the face with the hilt of his weapon, making her crash against the ground. I can't hear what's being said from where I am, but I run faster in the hope that I'll make it in time. But as another of the Macadian warriors grabs the old Fennec by the neck and presses a blade against her throat, the vulture steps between her and me, pointing his blade in my direction. Not another step, was he done for. Wait, we can talk. Don't bother bargaining with him. Wait, okay. Don't bother bargaining with him, kid. It's a lost cause. The Fennec fox has her teeth clenched as tears stream down her blood-soaked fur. Then behind me, Maelbjorn's voice booms. I am the prince. Take me instead. As the vulture glances behind me, he turns momentarily to his warriors, who seem doubtful. That's when I see Simi slip a hand under her cloak, and after which I hear her say these few words. Isu sa usumu. The soldier holding her tenses and tightens his grip on her, as his blade digs slightly into the spy's neck, causing her to bleed. Following this, the bird thunders something in Macadian, then Simi laughs loudly before shouting in turn. I'm not your tool anymore. Suddenly, ice spikes pierce through Simi's body from all sides, impaling the two warriors standing next to her. No! While I am in shock of the finished sacrifice, I can see the vulture reacting instantly and charging at me. Instinctively, I try to stop him in time, but my powers have no effect on him. He's already on top of me. What the... After taking advantage of my surprise to disarm me with a flick of his blade, the vulture reaches his talons towards me. But at the same time, I feel myself being pulled back, and Maelbjorn passes me, now armed with a seal he probably picked up on the way. Only then do I realize that it is with his saddle arm that the prince had just pulled me out of the Mercadian's reach before crossing still with him. The bear strikes with his axe, which is easily blocked by the bird's shield as he tries to keep his distance. Clearly, he understands that strength alone will not be enough against Maelbjorn. As I approach to join the fight, the bear's voice booms again. Don't come any closer, he's mine. If he's talking, I guess he's not having that much trouble with his opponent. That's presumptuous, Prince. What are you without your brand? Looks like I was wrong. I guess one of them is underestimating the other. Once again, the warriors clash their shields together. Even though the Mercadian is struggling to hold his own, he still manages to slip his sword under the bear's shield, clearly trying to use Maelbjorn's size against him. But the prince steps back in time for the blade to merely graze his armor. I'll show you why I am. A hand lands on my shoulder, and I jump before noticing that Tanakh has joined me. Trust him, he'll fare much better than you or me against Arakar's brand. But, Simi, she can't be saved, I'm sorry. My heart sinks as I hear these words, my eyes fixed on the body of Simi, held upright by the swords of ice protruding from her. Meanwhile, the two warriors continue to exchange blows. I notice that the vulture is trying to take advantage of Maelbjorn's lack of guard on his axe to try to slice off his fingers, forcing the prince to remain on the defensive. But as the vulture continues to distance himself, the bear starts to do the same. At first, he strikes directly at the Mercadian's shield with such force that his opponent is forced to focus all his strength on parrying. Then, pretending to attack once more, Maelbjorn slides his axe over the bird's shield and hooks the edge with his weapon before pulling with all his might to draw the vulture toward him. And in the same movement, taking advantage of the Mercadian's imbalance, the prince punches him straight in the beak with his armed arm, unable to reach him with the blade of his axe given their proximity. Stunned by the sudden attack, his face covered in blood, the vulture raised his blade frantically in the hope of driving Maelbjorn back, but the latter strikes the bird's wrist with his axe, breaking it cleanly despite the armor protecting it. With a scream of pain and fear, the vulture drops his weapons, and the bear takes advantage of this and to grab his opponent's shield with both hands and suddenly twist it with a loud crack. Deprived of both arms, the vulture staggers backward, a look of horror on his face. Stop, I surrender. No, fight. With a swipe of his paw, the bear sends the vulture's sword sliding to the ground towards its owner. The latter hesitates for a moment before bending down to clumsily grab it with his left hand. Please, it's too late for mercy. Maelbjorn steps forward again, resolute, causing the vulture to panic even more as he pushes his weapon a little further away while trying to grab it. Before he manages to do so, the prince strikes his face with the edge of his shield, breaking his beak on impact. The vulture isn't dead yet, but he probably wishes he were at this point. But how can I deny Maelbjorn his revenge? One blow, then another, even after smashing the Mercadian's head to a pulp, the bear continues to strike. So I join him, placing a hand on his back, and I stand beside him, seeking his gaze. Seeing me, Maelbjorn stops of his own accord, then drops his shield and looks up at Simi. I failed, Eric. I couldn't protect the kingdom. It's too late for Simi, Maelbjorn, but there are still plenty of people we can save. The prince approaches the fennec fox and tremblingly caresses her lifeless face. Without her to guide me, I wouldn't be half the African I am today. I simply take the bear's other hand and stand by his side, hoping it brings him comfort. I didn't know her as long as you did, but it's true that she was extraordinary. It was clear to me that she cared deeply for you too. But as I look up to smile at Maelbjorn, I realize that more than grief, it is rage that is etched on his face. I haven't finished avenging her. I've only just begun. As the bear stares at Simi with an increasingly hollow gaze, my attention is drawn to the hand she has slipped under her cloak. And at her paw lies an inkstone. Before the prince can see it, I quickly bend down to pick it up with a piece of cloth, and somehow I feel relieved that he continues to stare at the fennec fox. I know Maelbjorn wouldn't want me to use it. He would fear for my health. But given Tanak's current situation, current condition, and Aeon's absence, what other choice do I have? I need to stack the odds in our favor. Sorry to bother you, Mel, but Gilliant's bedroom door is open and there's blood. The bear's ears perk up on his head as he growls and rushes towards the bedroom as if suddenly snapped out of a trance. Not you, Gilliant. I follow close behind him, and sure enough, a trail of blood leads into the bedroom. And once inside, I can see that the bed is covered in it too. Yet there's no body. What the? The dresser door opens, and the body of a bird in armor collapses in front of us, followed closely by Gilliant, who is struggling to stand, a dagger in his hand, himself covered in blood. Everything is fine, my prince. A brief smile appeals on Maelbjorn's lips as he wraps his arms around the panther, giving him a bear hug. Easy there. I'm not fully recovered yet. Immediately the prince sets his captain down on the ground before looking at him with embarrassment. I'm sorry. We thought you were dead and we just lost Simi, so... Simi? She is... by the gods. The panther tightens his fingers around his dagger as he puts it back in his sheath. But before he can say anything else, a loud noise booms in the distance, and then the castle itself seems to start shaking. What's that? We need to gather the troops, and fast. I'm not sure I could do that. Prince, I failed. Maelbjorn turns to Gilliant and places a hand on his shoulder, looking him straight in the eye. Now more than ever, I need your help. I know you have the strength to do it. What if I fail to protect you? There's no personal failure in such a circumstance, Gilliant. If you fail, it means we have all failed, and I will not let that happen. And you did not fail. Together we defeated the beast at Calathon. I know you are still the greatest warrior, no matter what you may think. The captain looks down, then takes a deep breath. I'll do my best. Good, that's all I hope for. But we have to stack the odds in our favor. We need to get to the barracks. What's left of the guard must be there. Wait, do you know what the Macaians were doing there? I don't know how they got in the bedrooms, but I heard them say they were going to take hostages. Some nobles tried to resist and they were killed for it. In my mind, I imagine a cat terrified in the midst of this chaos. But seeing the state of Gilliant and Tanak, I think it might be better to keep my fears to myself. I can't put any more weight on Maelbjorn's shoulders. I have to rely on the falcon to survive one way or another. And you, did you see anything of what happened out there? Yes, and it's total chaos. Several of the warriors who attacked us were part of the escort of Zezwood, the Macadian Syed, but they must have managed to bring in other soldiers from outside. As we talk, we head for the exit of the room, but Gilliant stops when he sees the bodies of Odu and Simi side by side, and then I hear him say a few words in Macadian to them. They'll pay for this. I promise, but Eric is right. I must save our people first and foremost. We will take care of the bodies in due course. The prince rubs his eyes and sighs before returning to Tanak to support him. Let's go to the barracks. I take one last look at Simi after being overtaken by our small group, and I feel like I'm still struggling to understand that she will no longer be with us and that her wisdom is lost forever. but the hand on my shoulder pulls me out of my thoughts as Gilead smiles sadly at me. Thank you for protecting the prince. I would have preferred to be able to protect everyone. You must focus on the living for now. We'll have time to mourn the dead once this is all over. With a forced nod, I'll follow the captain to join Tanakh and Maelbjorn, and on the way to the barracks, we come across traces of the clash between Vikad and the branding of Lastra everywhere. Bodies torn apart, faces contorted with fear, but neither of them are around. When we reach the ramparts, we see that a wall of earth has been erected by Garains, branded to block what appears to be an avalanche, judging by the snow and rocks piled against them. It's far too organized to be an improvised attack. I hope the rest of the city hasn't been affected. I don't think they particularly wanted to destroy the city, but rather to keep busy as many of our branded warriors as possible. Let's hope what's happening over there is just a diversion. If that's the case, your father should be back soon. Tanakh speaks weakly as he seems barely conscious as he holds onto Maelbjorn with his good arm. We'll need the king's powers if we want to stand a chance against his brand. I'll come up with a plan, assuming we still have able-bodied warriors at the castle. Before we continue our way, I look toward the gardens and see soldiers wearing Frostfang's armor running toward the throne room with their weapons drawn. Look, let's join them without delay. Our small group descends the steps towards the gardens, then follows the soldiers' tracks. A good 30 of them are gathered around the throne room's door, which is securely locked, and their eyes light up when they see us approaching. Prince! The horse comes to meet us, but when he sees our hesitation, he doesn't take another step. Is everything all right? I think we're under attack in the avalanche. We fought Mercadian soldiers in the castle corridors. The troops were resting in the barracks, but as soon as we heard noises coming from the dungeons, we armed ourselves. But when we stepped out into the courtyard, well, there was this thing, a bunch of shadows that appeared in front of us. Was Calathon's beast there? The soldier turns pale at these words and begins to look around nervously. Not as far as I know, no. Why has it escaped? I can see that Geraint is also startled by the news, yet he remains silent. I had to free it, but that's a discussion for another day. What are you doing around that door? Following the shadows, we found a troop of Mercadians, but instead of fighting us, they barricaded themselves into the throne room. We figured we'd guard the door until the king returned, but to make it easier to capture them. That was a good initiative. The problem is that a scout has just returned from the lower city, sent by the king himself. He told us that there were clashes in the streets. Apparently there were far more enemy troops than expected in the underground passages. He may need our support there, in that case, but we can't leave the castle in the hands of the enemy. Geraint signals to Maelbjorn and they move away from the rest of the troops, where I happily join them, not without receiving a surprised look from the captain. What? Nothing. He then turns to the prince and begins to speak in a hushed tone. If Tanakh and I were in good health, I would have agreed, but as things stand, I don't think we can take on elite Mercadian troops. I would like to have your trust at least this once. You already have it, Prince. This is not your prince speaking to you. This is your friend, Geraint, a friend who will not make it without you. The Panther lowers his gaze for a moment before regaining his composure, determination now visible in what I can see on his face. I have no doubt about you, Maelbjorn, but your fathers gave me the mission to protect you at all costs. You are what they cherish the most, even more so than this kingdom. What kind of bodyguard, and more importantly, what kind of friend would I be if I didn't do everything in my power to ensure your safety? In that case, fight alongside me. Together we will see the sunrise on more prosperous days. I'm starting to regret butting into this conversation because it's getting strangely intimate. But Gilead finally turns to me, crossing his arms. Let's say I agree to go. You'll be the only avatar of mine. You'll be the only avatar on our side capable of fighting. And facing people who have most likely been trained to kill on sight, and who are there knowing that you and Tanaka exist. Do you feel ready to face them? I try to sound as brave as possible when I answer. After all, that's what Gilead taught me not long ago. Yes. You won't have to do it alone. I already have a plan for the branded of Lhasa, and Tanaka would be far from useless, even in his current state. The captain nods before signaling the three soldiers, including the horse, to approach. Metal strips or metal stripes mark the shoulder pads of their armor. I think it's supposed to indicate that they are a higher rank than the others. You three, listen carefully to the prince. He is the one who will follow into battle today. Right. Maelbjorn also signals to Tanaka, who approaches with difficulty, his eyes blinking rapidly. Do you need me? You're part of the plan, yes. But first, I'd like to hear what we know about the enemy. We face a brand of our car up here, and I don't want any more nasty surprises. Well, there were about 10 of them, I'd say, and in addition to that Lastro's brand, we saw them use at least Hurry and Tesla's brand, but they probably have more than that given their numbers. I want you to form 4 battalions. One of them must be composed solely of Valeria branded soldiers. The others need all our Argon branded soldiers, and the last 2 battalions will be mixed with all the remaining brands. The soldiers listen attentively as I try to understand what the prince intends to do. The mixed battalions will lead the assault. I want them to protect us as we enter the room, and then they will have to deal with the bulk of the enemy troops. The group of Argon's brands will accompany Tanaka. Me, I can barely use my powers, let alone command troops. You can produce flames, can't you? I can, yes, but controlling them is another matter entirely. Which is why I'm not asking you to control them. You'll focus all your power to produce flames, and the other branded will be there to direct them towards the enemy. Clever, as long as they're able to handle my power. Don't try to compete with me when it comes to self-confidence. Tanaka and I smile at each other, even if our hearts aren't really in it. But Maelbjorn quickly brings us back to reality. How many branded of Argon do we have? And are they strong? They make up a good part of the troop. Maybe a dozen, and the smallest brand is a medium size, I say. In that case, it should be enough. But what is the purpose of Ilaria's battalion? I was just getting at that. Logically, given the powers, Alastra, the enemy will try to cover all the light sources in the room to take full advantage of the shadows that this will create. The idea would be to concentrate Tanak's fire on a Macadian who controls the shadows to force him onto the defensive. And during that time, Ilaria's branded will have to take advantage of the weakness of the shadows that will most likely cover the stained glass window in the ceiling so that light floods the entire throne room. That could work. It all depends on our troops' ability to withstand the other fighters present. Eric can support our warriors from a distance with his powers, That will give us a significant advantage, provided there are no other branding of our car around. The horse nods before saluting Maelbjorn. We will prepare the others for the assault, if you will allow us, my prince. Go ahead, and go with them. Gilliant. I want to be sure the plan is followed to the letter. Once the two Africans are gone, I'll sigh and cross my arms. I know how to fight now, you know? I know. Which means I'd be more useful in the fray. Perhaps, but you're also a prime target for Maquette, and I don't want to risk you being taken hostage. It'll happen anyway if we lose. You know as well as I do that your powers are formidable when you stay at a distance. It's not just to spare you. It's also because it seems like the most sensible tactical choice. Alright, but I only accept that plan because you think I'll be more effective that way. Of course, deep down, I know he's right about everything, but my pride prevents me from fully admitting defeat. Good, I think it's time to go. How are you feeling? I'm not sure. Empty, angry, a bit of everything out all at once, but I'm not afraid, at least not for myself. I think I understand. And you? I feel determined. I don't think I've ever been so sure of what I'm about to do. In a way, it's exhilarating. But I'm scared too, not of the fight, but of what I'll have to do if we win. What do you mean? The bear pauses, and I can see the hesitation in his eyes. If we lose, there's a chance we'll be captured or maybe even killed. Either way, the outcome will be beyond my control. But if we win, I won't let any of those Macadians leave this room alive, Eric, and I don't know what that will make me. I wish I could find the words to reassure the one I love, but I can't. I wish I could convince you to spare them and avoid a war with Macad, but I don't know if I have the heart to be honest. Not after Simi's death. The prince simply nods silently, and a voice pulls us both out of our dark thoughts. The preparations are complete, Prince. We are just waiting for your order. Good. It's time to show the Macadians what we're made of. After joining the troops, Maelbjorn gives a final signal, and the groups immediately form. Everything is done in almost total silence, except for the sound of armor moving, and I imagine this is to avoid alerting our enemies to our movements. But deep down, I have a feeling they are waiting for us. The two groups forming the front line use their powers to tear up the pavement and creating a wall of stone in front of them, while the members of the other two groups, those branded by Organ and Ilaria, wait behind, weapons in hand. Gilliant joins me and smiles before regaining a more serious demeanor. Don't stray too far from me. I can't really fight in my condition, but I'll do my best to protect you. But don't stay too close either. I don't want to prevent you from using your powers. Maybe for once, I'll be the one protecting you. For once. You've already protected me. He winks at me before slinging his sword over his shoulder. Then the doors are blown open by a powerful gust of wind, and the stone wall advances, followed by the soldiers. But to my surprise, no projectiles are fired in our direction. The Macadians are there, sitting behind overturned tables that serve as barricades, and behind them, a cat, a falcon, but also Vin, and a number of other Faustian nobles are tied up at the back of the room. In between them and us, in the middle of the throne room, stand the Macadians, weapons drawn and brands activated. Calm down, we just want to talk. The warriors on both sides look at each other nervously, as if everything could explode at any moment. And as expected, the powers of Lastra are covering all sources of natural light, leaving only a few torches to dimly illuminate the room. Talk. After stabbing the heart of our kingdom, Do you intend to talk while hiding behind your soldiers, Prince? And you, Zerud, do you intend to negotiate while using hostages as shields? Absolutely. Even if the bear doesn't show it, I know he must be annoyed by Zerud's calmness despite her situation. You are in the middle of fast fighting, surrounded by our ramparts and our armies. So make your offer, but if I were you, I wouldn't push my luck too far. You already know what we want, Prince. The eagle's gaze shifts from Tanakh to me as he flashes a satisfied smile, and I see the white fox behind her, who seems to be suffering from nervous tics. Now that I think about it, I've seen him somewhere before. He was the one coming out of Idrin's office. I won't ask you for the bard. I understand you care about him. However, the ambassador, Kazal, doesn't even need to know what happened to him. That's absolutely out of the question. You'll get neither of them. That's a bad start for a negotiation. Before Zerud has time to say anything else, the shadows of the Mechanians stretch and transform into sharp beaks before circling around the magical stone walls used by their warriors. By our warriors. No one has time to react as two of our soldiers see their armor distorted by the power of the attack that pierces them through and through. What the? Attack! Water and wind suddenly roar from everywhere as each side tries to gain control of the elements. The chaos is so complete that I have trouble finding a target for my powers, and the fact that some of our enemies are disguised as Foshian soldiers don't help either. And last was shadows seem to get in my way whenever I try to focus on a Mechanian warrior. Tanakh, organs branded. Take your position. Looking behind me, I see the bastard take a deep breath before raising his arm above his head. Flames appear all over him, crackling dangerously in all directions. Then the other organ marked individuals form a circle around him, containing his powers with their own. For a moment, I feel as though I could see Tanakh's arm reforming in the flames as well as wings spreading behind him, just like during the tournament. Tongues of fire intertwine above the lizard before heading toward the user of the brand of Lastra, forcing him to wrap himself in saddles. I take this opportunity to block the spear of one of Zerud's escort warriors as he is about to plunge it into a Foshian, and the latter immediately counterattacks by slitting his opponent's throat. After seeing what I did, an enemy soldier sends a blade of wind in my direction, but Gyarant gets in the way and it dissipates before it even reaches him. Keep going, I'll protect you. The Mechanians manage to defend their positions while many Foshian warriors fall. But Lastra's shadows gradually recedes while Tanakh's fire consumes them as if they were made of mere paper. And finally, light shines through the stained glass ceiling. Branded of Ilaria. As the white fox retreats under the onslaught of flames, he finds himself directly beneath the stained glass window. And the light intensifies, piercing the darkness with multicolored rays as four branded of Ilaria work to weaken the bearer of Lastra's brand. The latter can only let out a growl of frustration when all that remains is his own shadow, and the light and fire bathe him on all sides, forcing him to kneel before the power of the onslaught. Then Zerud's voice echoes through the hall, amplified by a brand attestal. Stop, we surrender. What remains of the two sides look at each other, hesitantly unsure whether to continue or not. This attack is nothing more than a rash act on the part of my foolish servant. Let's settle this in a civilized manner. I see the hesitation in Maelbjorn's eyes. He could end it here and now with one of Makad's side. But before I can say anything, I see the fox burst out laughing behind Zerud, and she turns around too, although I can't see her expression from where I am. Silence, slave. In a split second, I see him slip a hand under his cloak. In the next moment, shadow envelops his body, despite the light reinforced by Ilaria's brands. Like 1,000 dark webs, they stretched in all directions, covering the stained glass window and the walls of the room. Give it everything you got. No matter how hard I try to use my powers on the fox, it doesn't work as the shadows cover him. And while the darkness spreads across the floor, the Mercadian soldiers themselves sink into it as if the ground has given way to a dark sea. They try to cling to the nearest ledge, but emaciated claws emerge from the saddles to grab them and drag them down into the depths. Traitor! Gerald and her soldiers send everything they have at the Fox, join us in the strangest of alliances. He has an inkstone. Fuck. The branding of Elastor is no longer visible, only a cloak woven of saddles remain, making him look like a raven, while two large feathered wings spread out behind him. Then the thousands of beaks emerging from the growing darkness begin a macabre song, a mixture of cries and wails as they engulf Gerald and her escort. This is far beyond what he should normally be capable of. He is an avatar. Retreat. As I prepare to flee, I realize that the saddles are surrounding us, dripping from the ceiling to cut off our path. And worse still, they spread out in all directions, including towards the hostages. Panic seizes me and all the Anthicans around me. They do their best to repel the monstrous birds emerging from the dark tide, but the creatures seem to feel nothing. Gilnot tries to reach the front line, while I see him shaking more and more violently as the saddles created by Lastra's powers come into contact with him. He won't hold out much longer. As for me, I know I have only one option left. After slipping my hand into my pocket, I touch the inkstone directly with my fingertips. An intense pain seizes my entire body while nothing and no one around me moves anymore. My voice echoes several times in different tones, talking about things I don't know, uttering words I've never said. It's about a dangerous cult, dragons, even Macad. I feel like I'm rushing through episodes of joy, pain, and even death, reliving moments from my life that I remember and others that I don't. Then I close my eyes to escape these visions, and suddenly there's silence around me. When I open my eyes again, I find myself in the throne room, this time completely empty. Well, empty of life anyway. The thrones are still there, and they are surrounded by skulls. Looking closer, I can tell they are rabbit skulls, African rabbit skulls. I can't help but recoil, and my instincts tell me to run away as fast as I can. There's nothing left to save here, so I leave the room and run through the corridors. They aren't covered in blood, which should reassure me somehow, but there's not a sign of life. All I can think about is that I should keep running. I should try to find someone, Maelbjorn, a cat, any friendly face. But the further I think I'm getting from the throne room, the longer the corridor seems to stretch. And when another door appears on my right, I recognize it immediately. The throne room is in front of me. It makes no sense. Once again, I try to escape this place to find a way out of the castle, only to end up back at the same door. Am I dead? If this is the power of my brand under the effect of the inkstone, I find it hard to see the point. But one thing is clear, I will not escape this place. My gaze falls once again on the skulls piled up near the thrones, and the silver runs through me as I feel them watching me from their hollow eye sockets. Overcome with a sudden impulse, I walk towards the pile as if drawn to it, not by words, nor even by curiosity, but by a thought that gnaws at my mind. A strange feeling of familiarity. Almost instinctively, I slide my fingers over the skull before holding it up in front of me. And in the blink of an eye, I find myself in a place I know well, a place I have tried to escape, both physically and mentally, but which have never completely left me. Scorner. I'm in my grandfather's house in my body. without actually being myself. And he is facing me. Eric, you're not ready for this kind of trip. I can't risk letting you go. What do you mean I'm not ready? You have no problem letting me do your shopping when you need to. How is this any different? Visa's not far from here, and the road's safe. Not to miss it's absolutely not the same as the capital city. I know this conversation. It haunted me for years. You can't keep me here. You heard Vigo. Do you know how rare an occasion this is? There aren't many traveling bars around, let alone groups looking for apprentices. I've made up my mind. You're too young. You don't even have a brand yet. Please no, I don't want to go through that again. Vigo's had his for months. It's just a matter of a few days, I'm sure of it. That's not the point. I said no. I don't want to risk anything happening to you on the road. I hate you. What? I feel myself being pulled against my will by this body that is mine, yet that I can't control. None of this ever happened, not like this anyway. I know I had to go outside and that I was going to do something unforgivable. But instead I go up to my room and cry my eyes out. It's not until several hours later that someone knocks on the door, and when I open it, when this other me opens it, Vigo is standing there with a pained smile. And I throw myself into his arms. There you go. We'll have other opportunities, I promise. But I would have loved to run away from this place with you. As I look up at the fox through my watery feeling, As I look up at the fox through my watery eyes, he wipes my tears away with a wave of his hand. We have our whole lives ahead of us, Eric. You're right. Suddenly, everything stops. Then everything speeds up. Vigo and I start our very own band in Scorna, and then over time we play in all the nearby taverns. We get married, and year after year we build a cozy nest in this place I hated so much. Grandfather dies peacefully with pride in his heart as the sea floors. When my brain appears and tests its brain to every chosen what an avatar is, I just hide it all. I don't tell anyone for fear that it will arouse unhealthy curiosity. I'll spend the rest of my life with Vigo until he passes away before following him shortly after, broken with grief. And Tess welcomes me with my fox by his side. The skull slips from my fingers and shatters on the floor as I fall to my knees, my eyes filled with tears. This whole life, I feel like I've lived it in these few seconds. Regrets, so many regrets. But I can't stop here. I need to know. So I grab another scroll. So I grab another scroll, only to find myself immediately in a new existence. One where Maelbjorn kills Vakad rather than sparing him. I see him change, becoming more and more tyrannical as time goes by. Then comes the eradication of the Frosian nobility, followed by the war with Makad. And those deaths. No, that can't be all I'm capable of. I have to find a solution. I must find a better existence. But that also means that, yes, it could have been worse. It could also have been better, perhaps. Another skull. I need another one. But I was prepared to explore another possibility. A hand rests on my shoulder. What the? I jump before turning around to find myself facing a mirror. No, I'm facing myself. What the fuck is this? The rabbit standing there is out of breath and on alert. As for me, I can't find the words. I'm still lost in those other lives. You are me? Or you are me? Is this another vision of Tess? I don't think so. I find myself here as soon as I used the Inkstone, and I think it's all connected to our power. Suddenly, the other me lets down his guard and steps back, still looking at me with a stunned expression. I used the inkstone too. I did it to fight Laszlo's avatar. After getting back up, I dust off my shirt while trying to make sense of it all. Were you fighting him too? Yeah, he used his inkstone, so I had no choice. He has an inkstone? Yes, you better kill him before he uses it. There seems to be very few differences between our lives so far, but I see that the other Eric's gaze is wandering over the skulls, so I step between them and him. Don't touch him, you'll regret it. If he thinks like me, I know there's no point in saying that. Listen, I don't want to offend you, but we barely know each other, and I'm not even completely sure you're real. There you go, thwarted by my own curiosity. I warned you. After I move aside, the rabbit walks past me, then hesitates for a moment as he looks at the skulls. Are you sure you're me? I know I would have insisted if it was really dangerous. It's not dangerous, just upsetting. He reaches for the skull I just dropped. Wait, not that one. Huh? I look around until I find a banner. Tear off a piece of cloth and wrap it around the skull of the Eric who lived the whole life with Viggo. Try this one instead. It may have been painful to witness, but it's still more bearable than seeing Maelbjorn become a tyrant. The rabbit touches the skull and instantly falls to his knees as tears well up in his eyes. Why? We share the same curiosity, and I knew I couldn't stop you, so I just gave you the least painful one, at least among the ones I've touched. Damn, it wasn't such a bad life, huh? Yeah. But we have to focus on what will happen if we don't stop Lastra. If we can still save something. As I help him up, I see something suddenly appear out of the corner of my eye. Another Eric. And he arrives just as shaken as the first, to the point where he grabs a rapier and points it towards us. What's going on? Who are you? Calm down, will you? And we're not here to fight. I don't know how many more of me will show up, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be a long day. Especially when I see him looking at the skulls behind us. Give him the skull. Let's get this over with. Why would you want to give me a skull? Because you'll eventually want to know what it is anyway. Not really you. Not really, no. I have to go back and help at a castle. They're under attack by the Bacadians, yes, we know. We're in the same boat. Unfortunately, we can't leave this room, and all we have are these skulls. Our skulls, if I understand correctly, other versions of us who died at different times in their lives and for different reasons. And it seems that the inkstone is what brought us here. Do you confirm that you used one? Yes, I did. After a moment's hesitation, this new Eric lowers his guard. After a moment's hesitation, this new Eric lowers his weapon and places it in a corner of the room, and the other me and I follow suit. The situation is complicated enough as it is without me stabbing myself. I might have an idea, but you probably won't like it. Go ahead, make your suggestion. It's not like we have any other options. I like to make sure no one else comes in. I really don't want to repeat myself an infinite number of times. Understandable. Let me sit down for a moment then. The first to arrive settles on the throne, while the other stands, eyeing the pile of skulls. I have to admit, it's starting to sound tempting. See, we can't fight our nature. But while you're making up your mind, I see the rabbit wiggling on the throne, striking different poses before finally settling into a nonchalant position, resting his head on his hand. What are you doing? Have you really lost your love of the theoretical or the theatrical? Have you really lost your love of the theatrical? If someone else arrives, I want them to be welcomed properly, and I want it to look mysterious. I'm already tired of myself, and a bit embarrassed too. You'll look dumb if no one comes. I'll take that risk, since when did I become so boring? I'm just trying to take it seriously, that's all. Me too, but considering the state the last rabbit arrived in, it would be nice to welcome the next one a little more appropriately. It's strange, I want to disagree with him, but at the same time, I think the same thing he does, just differently. Would someone please explain the situation to me? Just assume it's tricky to explain. We'll go into details once everyone's here, and hopefully I won't regret saying that. There could be an infinite number of us, I suppose. In that case, we'll be waiting forever. And here's a newbie appearing before us as if he'd always been there, except he has his back to us. He almost trips over a bone, so to get his attention without startling him, I make a simple remark. Looks like someone else just arrived. Who are you? The rabbit turns abruptly, his hand near his rapier. And he is just as confused as we are. Breathe slowly. I remember how it was when I arrived. It'll be alright. He looks us. He looks each of us up and down as if we were ghosts before eventually letting his guard down. And who can blame him for being completely confused? This is all too crazy to make any sense. Hell, that's impossible. Calm down, take a breath. You touched the inkstone and it sent you here. And we did exactly the same thing. No, I'm me. There's no, who the fuck are you? It's tricky to explain. Luckily for us, it looks like we have all the time in the world here. Which means we might also have the opportunity to find a way to defeat our enemy. The newcomer rubs his eyes before glancing at the pile of rapiers. Why are there so many of us, and why are you stacking? Hey, hold up. If I have to hear the same explanations and Hey, hold up. If I have to hear the same explanations one more time, I swear I'll stab someone. The aristocrat sitting down seems to find it amusing, but the other two much less so. And how many more of us are supposed to come? No idea, but I hope they hurry up. We have funds to save. Silence follows for a moment, but as the minutes pass, without a new me appearing, I can't help but start singing. It's Gregor's song that comes to mind first. Him and his bad luck. Let's hope my story ends like this. Maybe not literally with my dick sticking out, but at least with a stroke of luck. Then I realize that the other versions of me are starting to sing along. This quickly brings a smile to my face. Not bad, but you can do better, guys. Don't challenge us. You know how it'll end. On the one hand, I'd love to measure myself against your talents, but on the other, I know I definitely don't want to awaken our competitive spirit. Oh yeah, especially if we are talking about one particular kind of talent. None of us can hold back a salacious chuckle that stops almost immediately. No, don't say more. I know where we're going with that, and I really don't want to go there. We all know where that would lead for sure. That would be too weird. We have a lot of self-love, just not that kind of self-love. An awkward silence descends once more as we each stare at a different corner of the room. I mean, I guess it wouldn't be unpleasant, but it would feel like I am cheating on Maelbjorn. Suddenly, all eyes turn to me, and the third me to a wife almost chokes. Cheating on Maelbjorn, you mean you feel like you are not following his orders? No, I think he meant it quite literally. A prince? Well, someone's got quite the taste for luxury. I hope castle life suits you. There's almost disdain in the rabbit's voice when he pronounces these words, but before I can respond, the last of her wife speaks up. Oh, I think we all understand. He's strong, not completely foolish, and he clearly seems more vulnerable than he lets on. A little too uptight at times, but I'm sure he's not a bad guy. Except when it comes to choosing between serving his kingdom or supporting a friend. I look at them in turn, my eyes widening before clearing my throat. Wait, you're not in a relationship with him? Absolutely not. I'm with Tanakh. This time it's the other Eric who gets the strange looks. Of course, that's so typical of me. I know you're all thinking it's purely for sex, but no, there's someone quite interesting and likable underneath the facade. I can understand that, even if he is maybe a tad too eccentric for me. Here I am, thinking we promised not to cause a diplomatic crisis. That's what's coming from you, Prince Charmer. Hey, we only got to do it once, and no one knows about it. Yeah, well, that's one too many, and we know it won't stop there. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. At least I'm not wishing anything with a cat. Oh no, please tell me you're not with him to fill the void we feel after Vigil's absence. I did think about this implication though, but no, I'm at peace with this whole thing. Wait, is it really just our partner that makes us different? It seems so, and that's probably why we're all here. We have to defend someone, and that's what drove us to use this inkstone. It's not like it's just a fling, is it? Y'all would deeply love the ones you've chosen, right? There's no hesitation in my voice when I answer, even though I wonder what implications my answer might have. Of course, and I'm sure that's the case for all of you. But before going any further, let's make it easier to identify everyone. You're Tenno, you're Ek, and I'm Mel. However, out of the corner of my eye, I could see a hint of hesitation to gaze the second me to arrive. You're the only one who hasn't said who you're with. I'm with Vakad. I think the mixture of confusion and a touch of terror can be seen on all our faces when we hear this answer. Damn, I know we're the adventurous type, but come on. We don't technically have a rule about begging monsters. He's not a monster, he just needs help. He killed a lot of people inside that castle, including Rowan, and he would have killed Gilliant if I hadn't intervened. He was alone. He needed us to get through the hardship. We were all affected by the news in different ways, but the expression of Vikat's Eric turned to anger. Did you really abandon him? We couldn't have known. Believe me, I think we would all have tried to help him if we had seen it coming. All you had to do was talk to him. But what happened to Vikat since you weren't there to help? I can't help but look at the other two, who are just as hesitant. But before we can say anything, he lunges furiously at Ek and tries to grab him by the collar. What happened to? As the rabbit tried to dodge, the other hand makes contact with his head, and both of them instantly stop moving before nearly falling over. Tenno and I rushed to catch them before they collapsed to the ground, and then they regained consciousness, gasping for breath. No, no, you have to save him. This is horrible. What's going on? I saw everything, his whole life, everything that happened with the cat. And I saw what he became without our intervention. He is right. He can be saved. How? Oh, it'll be easy to show you. Tenno and I look at each other for a moment before nodding confidently. All right, Swordsvik. Say and trans Dr. Okay, it's T or L. J'essaie and trans d'être appelé comme ça. Sorry, but I couldn't think of something better. He sighs deeply before placing his hands on our heads, sending us straight into his thoughts. Bastard's Alley, the forest, the cold, all those deaths, all that terror. But my heart warms when I see how it all ends. Oh, whoa, I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's a lot to take in. I didn't know there was still so much to discover out there. Sometimes I wish I hadn't discovered some of it, but it was worth it eventually. I think it's only fair to suggest that you see what happened during my lifetime. That's a good idea, yes. Maybe if even the key to getting it out of here, who knows? Maybe, I hope so anyway. In one swift movement, we sit down on the ground, facing each other, and once we've done it, we touch our heads and are immediately transported into these other existences. So much pain, but also some pleasant surprises. All these lives are worth living. Although they are not so different from mine, the rabbits in front of me have come out of it changed, each in their own way. But we all share the same determination, the same goal. We need to defeat Lastro's avatar. So what's the plan? I guess if another one of us was supposed to arrive, he would be here, but he will be there by now. At least that means no one tried to fuck Vo. Or at least this Eric didn't live long enough to get here. Well, now that you're missing it, I'm surprised no one ended up in a relationship with Gillard. None of us can hold back a chuckle. After all, I think it must have crossed their minds as much as it did mine. Plus, it feels good to be able to talk to myself and to lighten the mood. Well, since we're stuck here, I figured maybe another one of our lives has an answer on how to get out of this. One of the skulls I touched sold our life if we had stayed with Vigo until the end, but he managed to hide his brand, so that doesn't really help us. The interesting part is we all saw that our powers developed differently depending on our lives, despite the similarities, so maybe in a less similar life, we would have had time to explore NeveN's brand in depth. Not to brag. This is off to a good start. Not to brag, but I think that out of the four of us, I'm the one who has been trained the best. If we need to harness some kind of new power, I can take care of it. I trust you on that, but it will go faster if we all work on it together. We all touch these skulls. Then, if one of us finds an answer, they can share it with the others. That sounds like a good approach. Let's get to work. After getting up, we spread out towards the different piles of skulls in the four corners of the room. Then slowly and methodically, we explore each of these existences. Most of these skulls take us through short lives, where I ended up stabbed in a pit by some common thieves. Others were lives too peaceful to really bring any answer. I thought I would discover new things, maybe even finally see my parents' faces. But the more I think about it, the more I tell myself that maybe it's a good thing, that I'm meant not to know. My family is here now. all around me. I see the other versions of me crying and getting angry. It could seem amusing. It could seem amusing if I didn't know who could be inside, or who could be seen inside these things. And finally, one of them raises a skull in the air. I got one. The air holding the skull is trembling, and yet I see no particular fear or excitement in his eyes. After we gather around and before we start tussling it, he momentarily pulls the skull out of our reach. It's intense, be warned. Which one of us isn't intense, darling? Now that's talking like a real Eric. After exchanging one last smile, we all touch the skull, and we are immediately sent into a body that feels strangely different from our own. It touches, and when I look down, I realize my body is covered in wrinkles and scars. This Eric is much older, but this time, instead of going from beginning to end, I feel myself being thrust backwards. He wants to show us his life. In this existence, I fled Skarna without ever rejoining my traveling band. I discovered my powers alone, without anyone knowing, and I trained it to survive on the streets. This time, I was the one who had the upper hand over the criminals, and as I killed them, I sang of my exploits to the common people. I had become kind of a violent vigilante to the point of attracting increasingly cruel individuals, until I caught the attention of the nations themselves. All I see is a life of wandering without friendship, without love. All I see is a life of wandering without friendship, without love. A life of perpetual war. And yet, the more I was tested, the more my powers developed. It even got to the point where I learned to enter NeveN's domain simply by singing. And it seems that this is where I find myself in the present moment. Endless corridors removed from the flow of time. This era created a sort of rift by coming and going from this place. He was trying to influence events in order to live a more peaceful life. In fact, deep down I could feel he was tired of running away. As I absorbed the process he used to come here, I am once again swept away by the flow of time and find myself in his skin doing what seems to be the end of his life. He stands straight in front of a mirror despite his advanced age. But he's not looking at himself, he's staring at me. Breathless, I emerged from this vision to find myself face to face with the other rabbits who had just had the same experience. You weren't kidding when you said it was intense. Do you think he knows about us? Maybe, but I don't think I would. Maybe, but I don't think that's our problem. We're still as good as ever at putting off our concerns until later, huh? Maybe we have the life he wants so badly. It's far from peaceful, but surely more peaceful than the one he had. Tenno, do you think you could recreate what he did? With your help, it should be possible. Besides, it'll be a chance to sing with myself for once. Wait, before we do anything, I thought it would be good if we all made a promise for those we love. You've definitely been influenced by a kid. I'm in, and I'll start. I would like you to help Tanakh realize his potential, help him ignite the flame of his ambition, and learn to let go by allowing him to return home. I'm sure he will appreciate it, and so will I. For a cat, I would like you to encourage him to take more initiatives. He has a big heart, but above all, don't let him forget himself. He is strong, even if he doesn't so well. I would like you to help Tanakh realize his potential, help him ignite the flame of his ambition, and learn to let go by allowing him to return home. I'm sure he will appreciate it, and so will I. For a cat, I would like you to encourage him to take more initiatives. He has a big heart, but above all, don't let him forget himself. He is strong, even if he doesn't show it. Oh, and also learn from his compassion. I'm not sure what to ask for Maelbjorn. Prevent him from starting a full-scale war. Listen to him. He's not bad, just lost and lacking in confidence. I'd like you to learn from him as much as he has learned from you. My request would be a little more straightforward. Find Fakad and bring him to Bridget. He deserves a new life, even if he prefers to spend it far away from everything. This path is dangerous. You've seen it, but he deserves that chance. Vic holds out his hand, and I place mine on top of it, then the other two do the same. Alright, let's give the gods a chorus they can't ignore. To be continued. Hello, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this chapter. If you want more information about NeveN, feel free to follow us on Twitter. We also have a Discord allowing you to chat among community members. Finally, if you would like to support our project, we also have a Patreon that offers you a series of benefits such as builds 2 weeks in advance, but also unique stories about the characters of NeveN. If you like the VN, please also feel free to rate us on itch.io. It will help us a lot. Once again, a big thanks to all of you, and see you soon. So that was chapter 11 for Maelbjorn, and this update focused a lot heavier on the mini Erics than with chapter 11 for a cat. Because it was literally at the end, and it was only for a little bit, so I guess maybe in the next chapter for a cat we'll see more of that. But anyway, we got to see a lot of it for this part here, chapter 11 for Maelbjorn. And these are basically the Erics of all the 4 roots. Like, the main Eric is Maelbjorn, you know. So, like, for last update with a cat, the main Eric would have been a cat because we're following Eric through a cat's roots. And this part here now, the main Eric is Maelbjorn because we're on Maelbjorn's route. So yeah, we get to see the different types of personalities depending on which route you go through. And each one has decided to have intimate feelings for one of the 4 characters, you know, a specific character. Like, we got to see the one for Tanakh, the one for a cat, and the one for Vakad. And the one for Vakad really sought the other Erics because in the other routes, Vakad was locked up, and he was locked up in a prison because, you know, he turned to the monster, and he just didn't have control of it, or maybe the monster took over him. And so when the other Erics heard what the Eric from Vakad's route said about Vakad and him, you know, trying to defend Vakad, the other Erics were kind of shocked that this Eric would be with Vakad, you know, with everything he's done, you know, with damaging the castle and killing people. And so they were shocked. But the Eric from Vakad route tried to persuade them to, you know, that he can still be saved, and that he's not entirely a monster, he's just trapped. Even though the other Erics told him that about what Vakad did as Calathon, and him attacking and killing people and just damaging the parts of the castle. So they decided to look through some skulls to see, to help them escape what's going on right now, and basically saw an alternative. Each skull represents an alternative timeline. What could have been for Eric, all the different possibilities. Some saw him dying or being killed early in his life for some reason. Some, all these different Erics. Some saw him being with the different characters, depending on what route you're in. And some even saw Eric as an old man. And basically, each one of them gave each other advice on how to proceed with, with helping their respective partner. Like I think a cat, one for a cat told them to be compassionate and just help a cat in being more confident. And the one for Fakad wanted them to help Fakad, save Fakad and not kill him. And the Tanakh one advised to let Tanakh go back to his kingdom and so he could become emperor. And this Maelbjorn we're through. The real Eric. Well, in Maelbjorn's, we're on Maelbjorn's route. So at least in this route, this is the real Eric. The true Eric anyway. But so depending on what route you are in, the true Eric could be like when a cat's route, a cat Eric would be the true Eric. So in this route we're playing, this is for Maelbjorn's route, so the true Eric really is the Maelbjorn one. And I understand what I'm saying, but anyway. So this Maelbjorn Eric basically advised them to or himself to help Maelbjorn think correctly and not become a tyrant and get the kingdom into a war with Makad. Alright, so unfortunately Simi is dead. And so is Rowan and her other son, Obu, I think. So basically the whole family is dead, which is sad. So with them battling the Makadians and Zerzut had a part in all this. So anyway, Makad really is the villainous empire here, or kingdom. Just want to conquer and enslave everybody. It's not good on them as a kingdom and as a people, but that's the way they are. Hopefully they will fail in all this. Hopefully Eric and Eric will succeed, and the person he's with will succeed too. Let's have an update. Regardless of all the different characters, the root characters. So, hope y'all enjoyed this new update of NeveN, Chapter 11 for Maelbjorn. Thank y'all very much for watching. Goodbye. One more thing, about Gilad. He's gained a whole lot more respect for Eric now than usual, because he told Eric that he saved him already, and he smiled and smirked at Eric, this is reassuring Eric that he's gained his respect, and that he's done a whole lot so far. So I like that he's gained Gillian's respect. And he's gained a lot of people's respect in the castle, Maelbjorn and others. Alright, so that's all for now for good. Thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.